Hey, welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball version 20, OOTP 20. I'm Doggone, Wendell G. And in this save, you can call me Burke Urquhart. I'm the manager of the Colorado Rockies in 1993. My team ranks 23 out of 28 in the latest power rankings. It's been a long time since I recorded any OOTP to my channel, and I've got some interesting problems here, and thought maybe get the old microphone out, talking to the can. So Colorado, I guess let me show you a couple things on the manager's screen here. Our record, as you can see over here on the right, we're in again, this is 1993. It's the year that the Colorado Rockies and the Florida Marlins expanded. And I have a little bit of a rivalry going with the Marlins. Their record is 9-14. My record is 9-14. And I am bound and determined to beat them with a stick this season. But they are having none of that. So I've been pulling out all the stops in order to don't suck completely, as my owner exhorts me to do or not to do. And so far, I guess I haven't pulled out enough stops because he wants me to be at a 500 record, 50-50, and I'm 5 games under 500 right now. Sigh. So anyway, so I've got. This is a difficult sim, man. The last few sims I did in OOTP historical sims I did in OOTP, were my dear Atlanta Braves, 91, taking them over in 90 and 91, and turning them into dynasties. Well, they don't really need help in 93. They have the second best farm system in the bigs, behind only the Yankees, and they're rolling right now. Surprisingly, San Francisco is ahead of Atlanta by a game and a half in the division, but that won't last. I am only one game, or a half game really, out of the cellar of the division. You can see there are 4 of us jostling for the bottom spot: Houston, San Diego, Cincinnati, and Colorado. I've been having a lot of difficulty adjusting to Coors Field. Let me show you some more data before I keep rambling on. Let's go through a few of these screens. Rangers announced Brooks. Who? Hubie Brooks retiring. Okay. Also, Eddie Zambrano, he was an expansion draft. We really need to start with that. Before I can explain anything about the team, we need to start with what happened with the expansion draft. Here's our home screen. And, batting average first? Are you kidding me? What? What? It's the Coors effect, baby. I haven't seen that. I've been struggling. My bats have been struggling. Now we get down to the real thing. FIP 13th in the league. Strikeouts first. Ooh. Zone rating 7th. We're doing good with errors. Defensive efficiency 12th. Yep, that's pitching WAR 11th. Starters ERA 13th and bullpen 10th. Yeah. Pitching I think is always going to be a problem, but you know what? I'm really darn happy to see this. There's my air conditioner kicking in. It's a hot night in Oklahoma City. Okay, so let's just go straight. Let me take you straight to the expansion draft, because that was the very first thing. Very first thing that happened in this sim. I started in 1992 as an unemployed GM, and I just simmed through the year until I got to I think in November or so, November, December. That's when the expansion draft happened, and so I got to pick my own peeps. So here's how the expansion draft went. I realize if you're like me and you watch this on a Chromebook or a laptop, it's going to be usually impossible to read this tiny text. So I'll just read it for you. This was a serpentine draft. Florida picked first. I picked second and third. Florida picked fourth and fifth. I picked sixth and seventh, and so forth. So with their first, the expansion draft, of course, the expansion draft, if you don't know, it works a lot like a Rule 5 draft. Teams can only protect a certain number of players in their systems, their entire systems. And is it their entire, including their farm system, or I don't know. I can't remember now, but maybe it's only on their major league rosters, but because I would think there would be more prospects that would have been available. But anyway, so all Major League Baseball teams had to leave some players unprotected for this expansion draft. So you might think of this as kind of the dregs, kind of the edge cases where the teams couldn't quite, they wanted to protect other players first. So Florida picked starting pitcher Jose De Leon, and at the time I was glad they did, because he's 32, and I had some illusions of keeping these guys on my roster for a while. Anyway, you can see that De Leon has really fallen off a cliff. He was also very expensive at $1.3 million for this year, and I thought, I don't want to pay $1.3 million for. Anyway, he was not even on my. Jose De Leon was not even on my list. Instead, I went through all these available players in the draft, scouring for potential starting pitchers, and that's what I selected first. So starting pitchers, and I wanted a good catcher to go with them. And so that's the logic behind my first picks. Pete Schurig and Darryl Kyle were my first two picks. Then Florida picked Julio Franco, second baseman Julio Franco, and second baseman Jeff Hewson. And then we came back and picked Pete J. Smith, starting pitcher, and catcher Sandy Alomar Jr., whom I was incredibly delighted was available. Florida came in and picked starting pitcher Bobby Witt, which I really wanted Witt. I did not want his contract or the fact that he was signed for a total of 3 years, but I did want Witt, and Florida got him. And they took Mike Bielecki as their next pick. And I came back and I took starting pitcher David Wells and second baseman Jeff Fry, whom, I'm an old dude, and I grew up following the Braves in the 90s, or in the 70s really, as much as I could in the 80s and somewhat in the 90s. So I know some of these. I'm very familiar with some of these players, but don't know anything about Jeff Fry. But he looked good, so I nabbed him. And there's an asterisk behind Jeff Fry. He has been performing pretty poorly for us. He's a starter, everyday starter, and he's slashing 240, 314, 347. with an OPS plus of 66, but he's got positive WAR because of that damn good defense. My scout thinks he's fallen off a bit in contact, and he might be right. But anyway, he's been a solid second baseman for us, and I want to mention, if you see his defensive ratings, he only has a position rating at second base, but he has good infield ratings, and I probably should have forced him at shortstop and or third base, shortstop especially in spring training, but I didn't. Anyway, my philosophical goal for fielding a team at Coors Field is to have strong defense up the middle, notably really outstanding defensive second base and shortstop, and outstanding defensive center fielder. So I want strong defense up the gut. I want good defensive outfielders at all three outfield positions, and then power, as much power as I can get at first and third. But having said that, I really highly value contact rating and OBP. I'm a bit of a sabermetrics kind of a guy. I like to get guys on base. Get guys on base and good things happen. So Jeff Fry popped up. Then the Marlins went with starting pitchers Joe Hesketh and Nolan Ryan, both of whom, I mean, who wouldn't want the express train Ryan, right? But he was 45, man. So I passed on them, and I went to third base Craig Wilson and Dante Bichette, right fielder Dante Bichette. Wilson I traded. We'll get to that. And Bichette is now a starting outfielder. He's doing well for us. The Marlins then drafted shortstop Felix Furman and second base Scott Fletcher. And I drafted second baseman Boy Rodriguez. And I don't really know much about him, but he underperformed for me. And I really wanted to like this guy, but his strikeouts were, if a player's strikeouts outnumber their hits, I have a problem with that. And he was doing that in spring training, and so, well, actually, he didn't even make it to spring training with us, but anyway, it looks like he is performing well for the Dodgers. In fact, too well. In fact, he's hitting at 144 OPS plus, man. Oh, man. Well, regrets. He was, okay, probably a mistake for me. Let's see, round one. This is kind of confusing. Let's see if, because they lumped the expansion draft in with the regular draft. All right, we got Trey McCoy, a center fielder, who's still on our roster, and then we got first base Jeff Conine, who is doing well, and shortstop Tim Bogar, whom we just traded. Then we got starting pitcher Trevor Wilson to come back to add some more depth to our rotation, and relief pitcher Mark Wohlers. We picked him up from the Braves. Colorado came back again with relief pitcher Roberto Hernandez, whom I later traded, and relief pitcher Steve Reed, who's still on our AAA roster. Okay, and this goes on, but I'll only highlight a few of the noteworthy ones. Catcher Tony Barron has performed lights out for us. He's really a first baseman with some catcher ability. And I keep trying to, there's no place I can put him, but he has performed so well. He was the player of the month in April. The National League Rookie of the Month in April. And anyway, why is he unhappy? You are in the starting lineup, dude. Transactions. Why are you unhappy with him? Oh, I wonder if I traded somebody who was his buddy. You can see he's performed extremely well for us. 167 OPS plus. He has just done really well. Let's go up here to the top. This is the first time I've done any kind of I don't normally do historical sims. They tend to be, in my past experiences, they tended to be wonky. At some point they just fall off the rails, and I'm going to try to make it work this time. Okay, continuing with the expansion draft, what did I pick? Let's see. Bo Allred has been traded. Looks like to the Giants now. Frank Bullock is on our AAA system. He did fine, but I just wanted more contact. I may bring him back up soon. Pat Henkin was another rotation depth pickup, but he has underperformed. Glenn Allen Hill, we just traded him to Baltimore. Dave Burba is still in our rotation. Felix Jose, I think, is okay. We traded him too. No, he's still in our. Sorry, he is still in our AAA farm. Charlie Montoya, we traded. Ed Nunez is in our bullpen. Chito Martinez is on AAA, our AAA system. And I think this is the last of it. Yeah. Milt Hill, the Cardinals really wanted this guy and gave up a lot for him. Pat Kelly, he was pinned in as a starting second baseman when I first got him, but we have since traded him eventually to Kansas City. J.R. Phillips is in our AAA system. He's young. I'm not sure he's going to make our team. He's trade bait, but Gerald Williams still in our AAA system. Another guy I've been trying to trade. Bobby Ayala is in our bullpen. And finally, Chuck Carr bounced around, and eventually we just had to release him eventually. We exposed him on the Rule 5 draft, and somebody picked him up. They released him, and we finally had to just release him to make room for other guys. He had such a dramatic fall off, Chuck Carr did. So that was our expansion draft, and it gave us most of Colorado home. Most of our rotation, David Wells, Darryl Kyle, Pete Shurik, and Pete Smith, all came from the expansion draft, and they've all done, well, I started to say they've all done okay, but maybe not. Dave Stewart was a recent free agent pickup, and I'm trying to trade him I'm trying to trade him early before he falls off too much. There's a lot of interest in him right now. Our bullpen, let's see, not a whole lot notable here other than Greg Olson. He came to us in a big trade that I'll get into later. High paid closer, big trade. Now our everyday lineup, they are slashing. Look at this. Jeff Conine, Tony Mitchell, 22-year-old. I think we picked him up actually in the on a Rule 5 draft. I should probably go into the logs and share that with you. Anyway, Tony Mitchell is starting in left over Ron Gant, who is our one and only big name free agent signing. Ronnie Gant, one of my childhood favorites. Not childhood, but young man. One of my favorites as a young man watching the Braves. He has woefully underperformed for us, and so I put Tony Mitchell in at left field instead of Gant. Dante Bichette hitting .353 from right field, doing fine. Tony Barron, complete surprise and overachiever catcher. He's hitting .371 again. He's the rookie of the month in the National League for April. I don't want him at catcher. I want Sandy Alomar catching, but if I could move Tony Barron to first base, but then I got to move somebody off of first base. I got like 3 guys in a logjam at first base. They're all performing, so anyway, I need to get off my own log and move some of these guys. Of course, I could play them in right field, but that's where I got Dante Bichette. Lance Johnson in center field. He was sort of he's my darling so far of my trades. This is the guy. I'll tell you how I found him and who I traded for him to get him. Jose Vizcaino has underperformed. I wanted him really badly for his defense, and he's doing fine, but he's not hitting as well as I thought he would. Greg Jeffries was a huge surprise. He was kind of a throw-in. I think the AI just was trying to dump salary or something, but he's been good for us. And then Jeff Fry at second base. We talked about him. So that's our starting lineup. What you don't see here is Ronnie Gant. He'll probably go back to left field when Tony Mitchell cools off, but man. Now, down here on the bottom right, the top prospects in our system, you know what I'll do? These are the top 2 guys were draft picks. And I think what I want to do is put a break here. And in the next video, I'll tell you about our inaugural draft and who we found and how they're performing. I'm really happy and blown away by some of their results there. So I'll see you next time. Thanks.